Welcome to the Wildly Healthy Podcast, your go-to for shaking things up and living an out-of-the-box life. I'm Jennings Waterhouse, a mompreneur, project addict, and recovering type A perfectionist, and lover of all things creative. I'm here with Dr. Gloria Waterhouse, otherwise known as Mamaji, a clinical psychologist and integrative mental health warrior who is committed to helping others achieve deep transformations. Let's release the struggle, flip aging on its head, smash some cultural norms, and say see ya to perfectionism and overwhelm. Join us if you're serious about kicking ass and thriving. Say goodbye to your inner Martha Stewart and hell's yes to a little more leather, fringe, and spice. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up for a wildly healthy ride. Hello, and welcome to our first episode, Mamaji. I'm so excited of our Wildly Healthy podcast. We're so excited with me.
I'm so excited too. We've been thinking about this for a long time, and as can be our case, we overcomplicate shit and we don't take action. So we're taking action even though we haven't gotten our system set up perfectly, right, Bob?
Yeah, it's always, better to just get started, and we're learning year after year that perfectionism is just not the way anymore and never has been, but for us, that's been a real struggle. So I want to ask you, we have a lot of podcasts to listen to, right? There are amazing people out there, gurus, they're, specialists, all of these doctors, all these things. Why do we think that we should start a podcast? I mean, when there's so much out there.
Well, I think we've spent a whole lifetime evolving our relationship, and there are a whole bunch of mothers and daughters like us out there, and they're kind of trying to figure out how to be so close to their daughters and yet maintain appropriate distance and not find yourself like we have for a lifetime processing stuff. I mean, thank God we're over the processing stage, right? It's kind
yeah.
What stage would you say we're in now, Jen?
We're kind of in the, I don't know, fuck it and let's go. Let's go have fun. Let's be our best selves. Let's not waste any time on the little shit that gets in our way. And when I think about a podcast, especially with you being so highly specialized as a psychologist, as somebody who's traveled around the world presenting research, you have this huge educational background, all of these, all the little initials after your name. And I see a lot of people like that and I listen to them, but the advice that they're giving is like so unattainable. I feel like people are making it, you need to sleep 8 hours a day. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, we know that. But how do we do that? And if you can't freaking do that, how do we survive?
Well, in that 5 a.m. wake up time with the beautiful regimen, I swear I can do that for a short period of time. But then sometimes you want to celebrate at night or travel into a different time zone, and it gets messed up all of the time. We know this stuff, but what are the essential things that keep us from implementing them? What do you think?
Really holds us back from moving forward and having a life that's actually flexible, fun, works within, a realistic environment. We're not living in a bubble. And I feel like all of these gurus out there are making us like so routine, which, I've struggled with forever. You have to have such a specific routine, this whole huge supplement list. You have to, you can't think one bad thought for even half a second or you're ruined. And so I hope that with our podcast, we can give people hope about redefining aging, redefining our limiting beliefs and how we can do things, but be a little more just, you know, normal.
Kind of go with the flow. I have a real life example as you're talking about this. Yesterday, I was trying to complete sending a letter to someone. I went to the UPS store to print it because currently I'm away from my printer. And I waited there for an hour and I put it in and it totally evaporated. I spent an hour and a half at the UPS store and then I was too frustrated to go to the 26 and 2 Pilates class that I had signed up for, the hot hot yoga. And so I didn't go. I did a lot of other things, but I just felt like a total failure all day yesterday and waking up this morning because things didn't go perfectly. And that's what tends to happen. I guess it's maybe Mercury retrograde, but I can't get any system to work for me right now. And as much as I know, I can't get out of this. So could you just give me some forgiving message I can give myself? What would you say?
Well, I'd say that, one day of not making it to the class is not going to ruin you. So often we say like, oh, well, I didn't make it yesterday, so I'm just giving up. I've ruined it all. I'm done. But you could also say, wow, okay, I got really pissed off at the copy machine and I sacrificed my own well-being for what? Right? So we have an awareness that maybe next time, was it worth it staying there for an hour and a half? Pressing the
No,
buttons.
no, I gotta forgive myself. I'm just kind of like not in my home environment and I'm doing better than I ever have. So where is that voice that says, hey, you may not be doing perfectly, but you're doing really pretty great with like 80% of the things?
I think that we need to work on that voice all the time. I think we're our harshest critics. We're always telling ourselves you're a fuck up, oh, you're not good enough, oh, you're too slow, you're behind, and I know I wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes the dog is like annoying and has to go out. And then I try to go back to sleep and the thoughts are just start accumulating and then I end up not sleeping well, and then I wake up and then I'm already feeling behind and stressed out, and you wake up with a little bit of that, yucky energy. And we just have, I just think this is a battle that we're all fighting every single day. And we have to talk about it. We have to keep working on it. We have to keep forgiving ourselves. And I know for the two of us, we've worked together for over 20 years now. And
Oh, baby, be realistic.
2000, we've owned many businesses together, restaurant and inn. We've renovated a whole bunch of old historic buildings,
Flipped houses.
houses. We've been in, our wellness business for 12 years now. We've had a yoga studio. You've had your practice. And for so many of those years, I just remember you saying, we live on this beautiful lake, and you'd see all the people out there on the lake having fun, and you'd say, oh, yeah, I can't do that today. I'm not allowed to have fun. I'm not allowed to live that perfect life. That's for the normal people out there. And for some reason, we really for so long felt like we had to make ourselves struggle, and of course called ourselves Croatian washerwomen.
Exactly. Exactly. This is so good to refresh because I realized that all of my life, and then I'm so sorry I transmitted this to you. I grew up on a lake in Florida, well, a bayou, let's down the block from the bayou, and I would hear the motors running of the boats, and I would think that's what normal families do. Somehow, my family, which really wasn't normal, but I couldn't do those things. And then I grew up and I knew in my mind, which was a misperception, that the only way to be safe was to work all the time, to put all the pieces in place. And I guess that's still part of what I transmitted to you generationally, and it's part of my family lineage. And it's taken us, God, it's 2024. I'm 73 and you're how old?
43.
And we're still working on this, but we have made some advances, right?
Well, I think we're much more aware of it now, but I know that so many people struggle with this. They're either kind of like on one end of the spectrum or the other. It's very difficult to find that balance of like, how do you be a motivated, responsible, driven person who is consistent, is working towards their dreams, running a business, being a super mom, doing all this stuff, and at the same time, going with the flow, being spontaneous, fitting all the activities, the fun activities in there, being present. I feel like that's like a big thing, like, okay, you're out on the lake now and you're there on the boat, and yet your whole brain is back at your office, on your computer thinking about the to-do list you have. So I know that you and I talk about this a lot, and we work with a lot of women, especially who struggle with this. And we want to help, hopefully by sharing our story and our struggle, help other women kind of navigate this as well. And we can, look at it in a lighthearted way and kind of uncover some of these things that we've just been carrying around for decades.
Oh my God. And I hope, as I listen to you talk, I think, well, we have made some dramatic advances, and I don't think we give ourselves credit for that. But one thing you can see about us is we're absolutely not perfect, right? And every day we're trying to be present, as you say, and have experiences and, be there for relationships without this helicopter flying around our heads saying, you're not enough. And that's what women say to themselves. You're not enough. And I know we look online and we see social media and we see these women and we think they think they're enough. They look beautiful. Their outfits are gorgeous. Their bodies are perfect. It doesn't look like this viewing room. If you could see the clutter around me now, you would laugh. And yet a lot of those women, I would say 90% of those women are harder on themselves than we are on ourselves. And that's the biggest message we have to give to women. You don't have to do everything. There are some really important things to do. And one of the things that we've realized is that we used to think it was all out external. If we completed our to-do list and everything was perfect in our house and, makeup, dressed, weight, all that crap was perfect, then we were in creator mode. But that's not true. That's not where the real energy of creation comes from. The energy from creation realizes that it's all energy. It's all energy. You can't focus on the details of your life that aren't perfect and create brilliance. Right?
I mean, as much as I try, I don't think that works.
But we're still doing it. We're still doing it.
Mamaji, when you say that, I think that sounds great. We say, okay, well, it's not the material things, it's not the external things, it's not, how perfect everything is. It's your energy, it's internal, it's being in alignment, it's being your vibration, all of those things. So if you're not focusing on that external and you're not, doing, how do we actually shift that energy on the inside?
And that's the question, isn't it? Well, one thing that I think we've found that works is, maybe we're not getting up at 5 o'clock a.m. perfectly every day because we have things like dogs and kids. Or, but we are beginning our day with the first thoughts, realizing that if realize you're the creator of absolutely everything. You realize that in the morning and you make a conscious choice. I am a creator, and it's not the external world like that, fucking printer at the UPS store that's determining my fate. It's my own creator energy. You've got to always remember that.
And I know
And
we're go into that in detail about how to do that. I think this is such a process that we're going through, and so many women are going through. And I know for you, being a psychologist for so long, you've worked with people in their, one-on-one, and the trend or the education that you had, the background that you had, focused for so long, psychology focused on, going back through your story, uncovering, really reliving every single pain, all of the hurt, and kind of holding on to that for a long time. And now I know that you have a very different theory and a very different way that you work with people so that they can actually make change quickly and transform. And you don't have to go through that huge unpacking of all the shit, that has come from ancestors and generations and all of that stuff. Tell me a little bit about that.
well, I was trained. God, I got my PhD in 1981, and for 7 years I was trained in this great psychology program at Vanderbilt to get my PhD. And it was a psychoanalytically based program. And I learned so much from that. And I learned the importance of our history and our family background and our lineage and our environment, all of those things, and how we tend to repeat that as we go through life. But what, in contrast to the psychoanalytic method, which is free association and, going back in your history, and this reminds me of that, and I was in this state. What? No. Today, I want to know everything about a person's world, including, most importantly, or more importantly, their lineage and their history. But what I really want to do is paint a picture or create a movie in my mind. And I do that in the first session, sometimes 2 sessions. If a person has a complex history, they really need to be understood. We all want to be understood and we want to know these things. So I developed a way in my head of running a movie, creating a movie about a person where I remembered all the characters and I have visuals for them. And I can remember that 30, 40 years because I just pull a CD file out. Now, once you have that frame of reference, you can then tell the people, not right away, but everything you do is to impart a message in, you're no longer there. You are no longer there. You can create a new reality now. And every time you go back to process, I hate that word. Every time you go back to process an event, you are energetically creating neural pathways to solidify that. Right? Does that make sense, Jen?
Yeah, it's kind of like you understand the framework or the structure that you came from, and then you're able to say, I'm not that same framework anymore, or I am creating a new path, a new and you start to recognize
Let's go forward is kind of
that.
the message. Okay, now what? And you, in the process, develop a trusting relationship with people. And this doesn't just go for therapists. This goes for friendships. This goes for working with teams of people, mentoring somebody, having children. It's like you need to really be able to jump into that person's conceptual world and understand them. But then you need to also, at the same time, visualize the most brilliant part of that person, what that person is not. We are not the product. We aren't Croatian washerwomen anymore, Gloria Jennings and Gloria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say that you understand that about people and you have this gift of looking at people and working with them in this way, this is something that we can learn to do for ourselves. And we can start to look at ourselves from that outside perspective and say, that's not fucking me. That's not, that was Dorothy. Dorothy's my grandma.
My mother.
And you kind of laugh because you say, like, I don't have to take that on. I don't have to attach to that. I don't have to carry that load for generations.
Is that really who I am now? That vision that this woman born in the 1920s who wanted to protect me by letting me know how small and
Well, let's just say short. You're short.
well, I'm short and I'm a small person. You're not as smart as you think you are. No, nor are you as pretty as your friends. Now, who gives their daughter, their adolescent daughter, that kind of message in really graphic ways over and over again? And so, with you, and I think this goes for a lot of mothers and daughters, when I look at you, Jennings, I see the most brilliant parts of you. I don't see the part of you who didn't get enough sleep and, has maybe not such a perfect space around her as it looks like in this camera. I just have always seen you as someone who could create and do anything she wanted to do. And I gave you that message all the time. And in that way, I did you a bit of a disservice.
What do you mean? That sounds
Well,
it sounds super kind. All you see is the great part of me. What do you mean that you didn't mean?
well, I've always said you can do this from the time you were 6 or 8 years old. And part of you knows I can do this. You can do anything. I've never seen anybody like you who can do everything. Oh, yeah, I need to create anyway. Let's just say a restaurant over 2 weekends and do it from menu to environment. But it's also given you a sense that I have to do everything. That's where I got mothering. One of the ways, one of the many ways I got mothering wrong.
Well, I think you're been, of course, the most amazing mother and given me so many gifts. But I do see how I have translated that framework of you have so much possibility, you have so many options. You have to do them all. You have to be the master of everything. And that just really does set us up for that same struggle of doing it all, of being it all, of perfection, like just everything about your worth is tied to what you create and all of these external, achievements. And how can we just go back to we're all in process, we're all working on this, we're doing the best we can under the circumstances, which a lot of the times are very difficult. And I only have 2 kids. I can't imagine having 6 or whatever, or chickens or all the other stuff that people have going on. And we want to give ourselves that grace. We want to But we also, I feel like today there's either the hustle culture or there's the slow life. Oh, just, you know, drink your tea and don't have any goals and be present. And it's like, I don't want to do either of those. I don't want to like kick my own ass every single day and be unhappy because I'm never in the present. And I also don't want to be in the place where I'm not driven. I'm not, striving for something. I'm not growing. I want to be doing those things because in the challenge, you do grow. And I love that part. I love this part of the struggle, you know?
I so understand. I'm just thinking of so many things, and I'm thinking of the fact that you and I had this shared perception of the world, that we were Croatian washerwomen. We were those old, gnarly, wrinkled women hunched over carrying, tons of laundry on our back going uphill. And for most of our lives, except for when you were in college, we have lived right by each other, seen each other every day, done every task simultaneously, or processed everything many times a day. And it's been quite liberating. Not that I haven't missed you, but it's been liberating to get away and kind of rediscover myself over the past year and a half, you know? So part of that was we're such powerful creators together, and we have this shared contextual way of thinking that I never learned how to be present. And I think you and I together have struggled with just being present and just having experiences. And that's what the past year and a half has been for me. And along the way, I created this beautiful relationship. I say I created it because I couldn't have done it when I was back in that old context of this person who loves experiences, who feeds all the different kinds of bird feeders every day, who's, so nurturing and loves adventure and loves the finest things and whatever, just somebody who's constantly pulling me out of my head.
What a blessing.
Oh my God. I mean,
Well, and I feel like for someone, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, but when I say someone your age, you know, 73, like I don't see you as a 73-year-old. I think you're younger now than you were when you were 40. But you're surrounded in this weird, like now you've moved to Arizona and you're surrounded by this weird juxtaposition of people who are saying, I'm too old to do anything fun. I'm too old to start anything new. And then you have the party people like, oh, we're just getting to go from one party to the next because we're retired. And they've lost any sort of like direction in terms of making an impact or doing anything significant for themselves. You know what I mean?
totally. And I wish I could explain what it feels like to be 73 and yet to be younger. You said 40s, but I would say even 20s. I am emotionally, mentally younger than or lighter than I was. I'm living in sort of a different worldview. And I only think about my age as to remind myself of it and go, this is an incredible process. How am I so young at 73 when I worried all my life about at my age and I'm going to be like this when I get into my 50s and 60s and 70s. And now I'm doing things I never gave myself opportunity to do in my 20s, and I feel better all the time. I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it, Jen?
Yeah, it's totally mind blowing. But I think that that's something that we'll be able to talk a lot about with women as they're following along. And you know, I even find myself doing that, like, oh gosh, I'm 43, you know, how many, okay, 30 years, so I'm 73. What's that gonna look like? You know, how's my husband gonna be when he's 73? What are we gonna be doing? Oh gosh, the kids are about to go to college, even though it's like 5 or 6 years away. You know, it's just the time is, it feels like a lot of pressure. And you want to do it right.
Yes, and you don't want to miss decades. I mean, I feel like I missed all the decades, but and yet it's hard. I mean, I know it's kind of exciting to have a mother who's younger at 73 than when you were born, and I was
Yeah,
30.
I know.
And yet, you also see this mother, who used to wear spike heels and Chanel suits and work all the time, and now she's like in biker clothes or
I haven't seen
hiking.
you wear a pair of pants in a while. Which,
And
I mean, I've seen a lot because she used to really like despise shorts. Like, I don't think I've ever seen you in shorts my whole life until the last 5 years, which is pretty awesome.
I know, I know. And now, you have to live in tank tops and short shorts here, or else you don't make it in the 110-degree temperature. So I'm exploring a lot of things. Jennings has a vantage point. I'm looking at her, and we're more separate geographically than we've ever been. But I think that has advanced our journey. And so we've got a lot of fun stories, sad stories, uh, things that we've discovered that maybe would be interesting to you. Maybe you already know most of this shit, but just like I forgot at the UPS store yesterday that that printer really didn't dictate my world, and the fact that I didn't make it to that hot yoga class didn't, define me. We got to let go of all that stuff. We can't miss these experiences. And I would just say to you, Jennings, stop thinking about the future and, how much worse things are going to be, because that's not the truth. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
Um, I guess it's time for us to stop at this point. I think it's a good stopping point. But I've loved talking to you, and stay tuned. What are we going to talk about next, do you think, Jim?
Well, I think that our next topic, I loved how you were talking about being a creator versus a victim um, of your own life. I think that that's a great next topic.
Let's talk about that, and let's really delve into why most women have a resistance to seeing themselves as creators.
Let's do
This
it.
is deep, spiritually, psychologically, energetically, and a fun topic. So, okay.
I think that sounds good.
Love you, Bump. By the
But
way, Bump is my nickname for Jennings, and it makes no sense, but it goes back from being an infant. So,
thanks, Mamaji. We love you,
okay.
and thanks for joining us.
Bye, darling.